All right, let's talk. It's funny because I wasn't going to talk about this story, y'all. I wasn't going to talk about this story, but it's still going here. It's still going. And y'all know I made content about like New Yorkers and how they feel about hip hop and really honestly about everything. Everything. New York is the Mecca. Rah, 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 rah. So just to catch y'all up, man. Me playing more variety for freestyle. Okay, okay, I'm gonna check that out. So just in case if y'all weren't paying attention to this story, Jim Jones once again is going on his like what I call a lion spree. It's his lion tour. Jim Jones most like recent over the past few years has said some pretty ridiculous things. He was talking about don't wait, Nas want swag, like when nobody listening to Nas like that. Like this dude's been saying some crazy things, right? But the latest crazy thing that he said was that he helped, or not even helped, he made Kid Cudi hot. He made Kid Cudi hot because Jim Jones decided to hop on a remix, and I'll say that loosely, a remix of Day and Night. So as you know, Kid Cudi's first major smash was Day and Night. I don't think that any other song that he has done has touched the magnitude that Day and Night had, right? So Jim Jones just came out and said he was on the podcast and he was like, "Hey man, I made this hot, man. I made Kid Cudi's career. I made Kid Cudi's career when I jumped on that remix. Ain't nobody in NY even know who he was until I ain't know about this song until I made the remix." So and that's the fight. That's literally the thing that everybody's been saying as he majority of people have said that they've never heard this remix. I will say that I did hear it. I heard it way back when, but Jim Jones remix was not the first time that I heard Day and Night. I heard the original. I heard the original. I heard the Crookers remix. I had Kid Cudi's mixtape, A Kid Named Cudi, and Day and Night was on there. And then I proceeded to buy the first album, and it was on there too. So I did hear the Jim Jones remix because somebody mashed up Kid Cudi and Jim Jones together, but this wasn't an official remix. I want to tell you that right now. This wasn't an official remix. Jim Jones just decided to do it. He just decided to do it, right? But he is claiming, he is staking claim, like all NY niggas do. Like I swear, everybody from NY is like Christopher Columbus. I don't know what's going on, but everybody from NY is like Christopher Columbus. They just say that they started something. They just say that they discovered something. They made something hot. Wasn't nobody saying that. Wasn't nobody wearing that. Wasn't nobody listening to that every single time. What up, Mexican Hustler? So I want y'all to listen to what Jim Jones said first, and then we'll continue down the timeline until we get to today.
And night, day
Yeah,
and night.
that was one of the biggest.
Nigga, you remixed that shit. I
That's
didn't
how
know that shit.
that's how y'all know Kid Cudi. You would have never known Kid Cudi if I didn't remix the record in New York City.
Come, first lie, just lying out the gate. You know how I say people just be lying for fun. I think Jim Jones loves to lie for fun. I honestly think he loves to lie for fun because the fact that this is coming out of his mouth and he is so confident in saying it, and then like he like like joking. Like sometimes you can tell when people lie. Sometimes people are just bad liars, bro. Sometimes people are just bad liars. But Jim Jones but actually believes this stuff. He is saying it with the utmost confidence, bro. He is saying this with the utmost confidence. So I want y'all to pay attention to what he said because there are some people who are trying to like move the goalposts and say other narratives. But Jim Jones said nobody would have known about Kid Cudi and NY if it wasn't for the remix. I want y'all to hone in on that statement. Nobody in NY, nobody would have known who Kid Cudi was in NY if it wasn't for me doing a remix.
I made that the biggest
Oh,
record
all
in New
right.
York City. It wasn't Kid Cudi. Nobody knew who Kid Cudi was. Kid Cudi became about because he had video directors that I wanted them to do a video, and I asked them show me a video they did before, and they showed me this kid on top of a roof with a record called Day and Night.
Right.
He worked in the store under the label. It was nobody. I was like, "Oh, yo, did this?" I said, "I like the record. get the beat of the record. I want to do a remix. If you give me the beat of the record, I'll let y'all shoot my video. These kids was trying to shoot a video for free for me.
Oh.
Like, I got the beat. I told them they went crazy. You want to do it? I got the beat. I shot the video to the beat, and I never even put the shit out. They put it up on YouTube. They ripped it off of YouTube, and it became the biggest record in New York City. And that's how Kid Cudi became an artist. They ended up giving him a big deal off of Jim Jones' back. If I'm lying, I'm flying.
Off of Jim Jones. He said the record label, after he did the remix, he said the record label gave Kid Cudi a deal off of his back. So he's saying he put the work in. He made all of this happen. Without Jim Jones, we wouldn't know who Kid Cudi was. Right? Just like, you can't make this stuff up, bro. You literally can't. If I'm lying, I'm flying. When you flying, my man's just flying all the way to the moon where Kid Cudi was. My man's just flying all the way to the moon where Kid Cudi was. Cause like, what? What do you mean? What do you mean? So he said that, right? That came out of Jim Jones' very own mouth. So he said that. And I want y'all to really like understand how radio was back then one of the only ways that you could essentially break a song and make it hot. But during this time, we're talking about 07, 08, radio was a dying art form. It was a dying piece. The radio was no longer the gatekeeper to breaking records. We went from radio really being the thing to street mixtapes being the thing. Like, I remember the days of LimeWire. I remember the days of people coming into barber shops with the CD saying, hey, I got this new Lil Wayne dedication. Like, I remember those days, like getting the CDs off of the bootleggers. I remember downloading the stuff myself. I remember live mixtapes. I remember that piff. So things started to shift, and people, when the internet really became a thing, started having these more accessible ways to get music. So essentially, outside of the radio, you could become mainstream, or you could get a buzz in your region, and then it expands to the rest of the US and then eventually the world by street mixtapes, by getting your music off of the internet. But street mixtapes were really, really hot then. And then there was such a thing around this time called the blog era. The blog era. So we're talking about Nah Right, we're talking about Two Dope Boys, we're talking about Fake Shore Drive. The blog era was really important. And honestly, I want to say that was my favorite era in hip hop. That was my favorite era in hip hop. The blog era was so pure, and it made me very happy to like discover so many new artists, just because people that weren't like the traditional radio folks, that weren't the traditional journalists, were able to have a voice and were able to put on a lot of underground talent that wasn't in your city. It wasn't in your town. It wasn't in your state. The blog era was very, very important. Very, very important. So he said, so in NYC, there's been a rumor that Jim Jones has a cold. Every time he hears speak to let you believe it. Oh, man. He said the man spirit in Day and Night was still not playing in the barbershop or on the radio. It was on the radio. Yeah, I don't know. I don't agree with that one, because it definitely did. It took a little minute, and that's kind of the point here, that people are like trying to say, oh, because in New York City, Jim Jones's remix ended up on the radio in their area and it got played first. He was saying that after that, then the original started getting played. Now, again, Day and Night definitely got played on radio. 100% it got played on the radio. But it didn't get played in the radio in the very beginning of the life cycle of that song. So this is why a lot of New Yorkers have that skewed view on like the timeline of what got played first, whether it was on the radio or not. And they are still harping on the fact that if it wasn't played on the radio, it wasn't hot, which is, again, a lie, because you had the blog era then that elevated a lot of these underground artists and a lot of these songs that, yeah, you wouldn't listen to it on the radio, but through just buzz, through word of mouth, through mixtapes, you would eventually get to that point where again you would get a deal or somebody would run into you, you would meet the right people, and then they would get that song to get played on the radio, not only in one region but across the US and eventually across the world. So right now, I mean, I want to ask y'all a question. Who's still listening to the radio? Who's listening to the radio? Shout out to Watts with a big raid, but who is still listening to the radio? One. And second, if you're still listening to the radio, are you finding yourself finding new artists and new songs from the radio? I'm going to tell you 100% no. I don't listen to the radio anymore. And at any time that like I'm in the car or something, like the radio was just on for a second, or I'm like in a random place and the radio was on, like I'm hearing the same old songs over and over and over. Like the radio more or less has been a very like popular, like that's why they call it pop music. It doesn't just have to be like the typical like sing song, but pop music is short for popular music. So that's what the radio plays. The radio plays the popular music. Yes, you have segments where you play underground tracks and stuff like that. I ain't talking about that, but just the general radio, you play all the top hits. That's what you're playing. You're playing the top hits. I haven't listened to the radio. We don't get our music from that anymore. We get our music from social media mostly. We get our music from, I don't know if SoundCloud is still like where it was back then, but SoundCloud was a real big thing. But nowadays it's TikTok, or if you already got a buzz, it's TikTok now. So a lot of artists are breaking through TikTok. It's not radio, and it hasn't been radio for a very, very, very long time. A very, very, very long time. So that's just not the way that records are broken anymore. So I don't know what Jim said, but I don't listen to 50-year-old man. Jim Jones, so just to get you up, ankle. Jim Jones said that he was the reason that Kid Cudi got high. He said nobody knew about Kid Cudi until Jim Jones did the remix of Day and Night. So that's what we're saying. That's what we're saying. So to continue on with this story. So after Kid Cudi heard this, Kid Cudi said he's been ignoring for the most part what Jim Jones said, because this is, keep in mind, this is not the first time that Jim Jones has made this claim, but he said it again, and this time it really caught buzz and went viral. So this is what Kid Cudi said. Let's listen to what he had to say.
Oh man, so starting my day, and I see something online that I have to address, right? So Jim Jones, first off, we love Jim Jones, right? Like I grew up on Jimmy, like he's the homie. I met him when I was coming up. He was cool, right? Jimmy, I'm gonna address you directly, my nigga. You talking about how you are responsible for my success is a lie. You need to stop lying to people. You get on your little podcast and you start gossiping and talking shit, and everybody on your podcast don't know the truth. So they're all agreeing with you. But if you look under the comments under that post, you'll see people are letting you know what time it is. This is part one. I got more to say. Day and Night was already a hit record before you touched it, my nigga.
Facts. Again, if you want to talk about timeline, Day and Night came out 07. That remix that Jim Jones is sounding so very loud and proud about came out in 08.
I put it on my MySpace. It blew up. Okay? I had an entire mixtape. I was on my way. Motown was courting me. Kanye wanted to sign me. All because of Day and Night, because I put it on my MySpace and it blew up, my nigga.
Yes, facts. I don't know Jim Jones for blowing up Kid Cudi. You know who I want to attribute to me knowing about Kid Cudi? It's Kanye West and Plain Pat. Kanye West and Plain Pat. Okay? Those are the people. Like literally on Kid Cudi's first mixtape. Like he was, shouting out Plain Pat a lot. But those two people are the reason. It ain't Jim Jones. It's Plain Pat and Kanye. I remember Kid Cudi talking about a story. He used to work at Bape. He was in New York at the time. He used to work at Bape. And he said, like, it used to be people coming through there. And Kanye came through Bape. And so, he ended up seeing a lot of these people. So this wasn't just a chance coincidence, right? It wasn't just a coincidence, bro. wasn't just a coincidence, but those are the people that blew up Kid Cudi. Those are the people that helped him really get to the higher heights. It wasn't Jim Jones.
It blew up. I can promise you that Sylvia Rhone did not listen to your remix and say she wanted to sign me. That is not why I have a record deal, bro. Nothing you're talking about is the truth. How do you think I had a music video? I was shooting the music video I was already on. You saw a hit record and jumped on it, my nigga. Like, you didn't make me, man. You didn't make me. So, like, you got to stop telling these tales, my nigga. Like, you got to stop. I want to shout out everybody that's been in the comments letting this nigga know what the truth is, you know. But it's crazy how people just be trying to, like, take credit for my success. You know what I mean? Like, it's wild, you know? Like, and I like Jimmy, man. It kind of breaks my heart to hear him on here trying to take credit for something that he's not a part of. You know what I mean? You jumped on my shit. I didn't ask you to do that, you know? And granted, they played it on Hot 97 every day, and it was a thing on Hot 97 on the radio. But I was an international artist from jump. Like, I had the world, my nigga. Like, I don't understand. I really don't understand. But I'm going to address this now, you know what I'm saying? Like, no more tales, my nigga. You ain't had nothing to do with this. So, yeah, man, just wanted to address that, you know. I just know that, like, niggas is trying to erase history. You know what I mean? Niggas is trying to rewrite history, you know? And I'm alive and well, and I'm around to address it. This Jimmy talking about how he's responsible for my success, this comes up every couple years. He's always talking about it, and I've been ignoring it, and now finally I'm going to say something, you know? Because you're not about to be out here trying to, like, take credit for something that you had nothing to do with. You know? So, yeah. Just wanted to address that, y'all.
So that was that. That was that, right? So that came directly from Kid Cudi, right? He said last time you heard Jim Jones, you talking crazy about Nas. Exactly. We just mentioned that, baby. I just mentioned that. Like, you talking crazy about Nas. Like, just I don't get what's going on with him, bro. I don't get what's going on with him. So, all right. So Kid Cudi said that. Jim Jones then proceeds to double down on what he said. So he ain't done. He proceeded to double down on what he said. So Jim Jones said, oh my God, man. So hold on. Is this what's this? This the one? So he said, only New Yorkers would understand. Again, he started off again with this New York stuff. It's always New York, New York, New York. New York really believes that they are the only city in America. They think that they're the only city in the world, the way that they be talking, bro. If you only New Yorkers would understand, what they got to do with anything? What they have to do with anything? Truly. Because if someone blows up, that means that they are outside of New York at that point. Blowing up is outside of New York. If you're still in New York and you blew up, that means that you just caught a buzz. That doesn't mean that you blew up. So he again starting with this crap. Only New Yorkers don't understand. He said, had it not been for his remix, the record wouldn't have become an NY classic. He said, just a fact check, which again, he already lied. He been lying. Said, if I'm lying, I'm flying. So you been flying. And he said it again, just a fact check. I love Cudi also, but when this dropped, no one heard of you. No one even heard of you. It wasn't played on the radio or any BET, MTV. It wasn't on mixtapes. You wasn't hot in NY streets, in New York streets. So once again, he mentions NY as the new rapper. And this is what he said. So once again, he's doubling down on this New York and radio crap. Again, he isn't very old head like saying this, because I don't know why New Yorkers hold on to radio in like the past so much. that it just blinds them. It literally blinds them on like where we are today. Nobody cares about radio like that. Yes, New York radio is still very important. You got Hot 97, which again went through this transition. You know, they let people go, and then you got Power 105. Yes, we understand that those are legendary hip hop stations, but you cannot sit up here and be like, oh man, like y'all still need to go through radio. It isn't like how it was back then. And even back then, again, I mentioned we were in the blog era at that point. So do you really think that Kid Cudi needed the radio in order to get that song high? That he needed the radio to get a deal? That he needed you to do your remix because you felt like it and get that on the radio in order for people to be like, hey, what song did he do this remix on? Who is the person that he hopped on this remix? Who was Kid Cudi? What is Day and Night? Let me listen to the original now. So this is what he said, bro. So that's what he said. So after that, then we had two more New Yorkers. We had B Dot and we had Rob Markman, who again, they're both older gentlemen. And they both, no matter what they say, they still have this New Yorker mindset and they don't want to let it go. So B Dot said multiple things. Yeah, this is hilarious. B Dot said multiple things. So he said, this Day and Night debacle is silly. Radio is important, and Hot 97 was/is the biggest rap station in the #1 market. The song had legs online, but Jim's remix was a version DJ played on there. Again, y'all remember what I told y'all to remember what Jim Jones said. Jim Jones said that he made Kid Cudi hot in New York and nobody knew who he was until he did that remix. So why are we harping on the radio part? And why are we trying to discredit what Kid Cudi was doing by himself with the help of the internet, with the help of the blogs, with the help of MySpace, blowing that song up and giving it some buzz way before it even appeared on the radio? They are again trying to say, doubling down and tripling down and saying, hey man, it wasn't on the radio. Hot 97 is important. Radio was still important. We're not talking about that at this point. The point that Jim Jones was trying to make was that he made Kid Cudi hot, and that is a full stop sentence. It doesn't matter about the radio. Like, what up, John Doe? It doesn't matter about the radio. So once again, they start just going in. And this is truly, I'm telling you, this is truly what New Yorkers think, man. They think that America looks like this. They think that the US looks like this, bro. Everything is New York, man. Everything is New York, bro. and then they be wondering why we be clowning them. They be wondering why we be clowning them. Because y'all constantly be saying dumb stuff like this. And act like y'all are literally the Mecca of the entire world. Literally. So then he proceeded to respond to somebody. The person said, this is a take I have. They both are correct. Cudi had a huge buzz with that song at the time because naturally the song was big online with the blogs, aka my point. But the addition of Jimmy definitely put the surplus of new fans on with New York radio. Again, they are saying New York radio. You know what doesn't play typically across the entire US? You know what has other radio stations? Georgia, Missouri, Virginia, DC, Texas, California, Washington, Oregon. Like, you get what I'm saying? Like, they are literally still speaking in this bubble of New York. Oh man, he helped do this in New York. And this is why we be mad at y'all, bro. This is why this is annoying. Like, yeah, I'm still in Tampa, bro. Like, this is stupid. And so B-Dot said, yes, Jim didn't make Kid Cudi. He did help give Day and Night more exposure. Okay, fine. Okay, fine. But again, we are not talking about that. Let's keep up, people. I hope y'all are still with me. Let's keep up. Jim Jones did not say that. Jim Jones did not say I helped to get more exposure. He said nobody knew who Kid Cudi was in New York. Nobody knew who Kid Cudi was in New York until I hopped on that remix. He said we got a link one day. Oh, look at you. Okay. He said there's a reason why they performed it a few times. Now, again, y'all, you're losing the plot, bro. Losing the plot. And so here comes Rob Markman. Here comes Rob Markman. I love you, Rob Markman. Love you. You are a legend in the hip hop space. A legend in the hip hop space. But I gotta give you this work too, bro. I gotta give you this smoke because you are also very delusional with this. So Rob Markman, he also hops on the bandwagon and has his 2 cents. He said neither me or B Dot are saying that Jim's unofficial remix affected anything outside of NY, nor are we saying that Jim is correct when he says nobody heard of Cudi before him. So at least you admit that part. All we're saying is Jim did remix. Hot 97 played that remix, and that remix introduced a particular NY crowd to Cudi. Okay, again, that's not the point. That's not the point. That's not the point. Y'all are moving the goalposts and moving on to a different point. That is not what Jim Jones said. I don't know how many times I got to say that is not what Jim Jones said. So then he proceeds to say something else. So somebody responded to him. He said Cudi was already playing on Miami radio. So somebody is saying that they were in Florida. I said Cudi was already playing on Miami radio and in Sobe clubs in 07, 08. New York was late on that wave. And Jim Jones remix was horrible. Sorry, I can't lie on that one. The Crookers remix leveled that record up. Okay? Said the Crookers record leveled that record up. And Rob Markman says, y'all keep insisting this an NY thing. How we're not insisting. Y'all literally telling us that it's a New York thing. And because we're not in New York, we wouldn't understand. That's literally what y'all are telling us. B-Dot said that, and you are doubling down and saying that. So Rob Markman continues, New York was not late on him. He recorded the song in New York, lived in New York. A chunk of the blogs now right. UHTN info on Smash were New York based. He had support in the downtown New York clubs and streetwear scene. New York radio was late to adapt as they were to a lot of the blog era artists at that time. Okay, that's fine. That is fine. But y'all are still losing the point. Y'all are still losing the plot of what Jim Jones said. And that's why we have to, again, pay attention to what somebody says, not go on another segue and talk and focus on the radio, because that's what him and B-Dot were consistently doing. They were consistently doing that. So he continues here. And this is where we get on to like East Coast, West Coast, like regional stuff. Now he says, feeling like a lot of people convinced themselves that the New York City hip hop community is closed off, closed-minded, set based off a few stories we heard from the 80s and 90s. No, it's not just from the 80s and 90s. We know that y'all are closed off. You know why? Because it's 2026 and y'all keep reminding us about how y'all are just so New York and everything has to come through y'all. Y'all are telling us in 2026 that this is still the case. Y'all are still very closed off and y'all are still very closed-minded, and y'all are harping on the past and y'all are trying to take credit for everything. He continues here. The truth is, for the most part, out-of-town artists are welcome with open arms. Our radio, our DJs, our clubs play music from all over. Artists come from out of town and go on press runs here, do shows here, some move here and live here and get love here. Okay, fine. That's all fine and dandy. I'm not disagreeing with you there. He said it's been that way for at least 20 years. Okay. Sadly, sometimes, which we've heard some instances where like people not from New York, they try to come and do press runs and stuff, and they didn't, quote unquote check in, or they didn't do it the right way, and then they end up getting blackballed, they get booed and stuff. So it wasn't always all hunky dory. It wasn't always handshakes and hugs with people not from New York coming to New York. So anyways. He said, sadly, sometimes it's actually harder for local artists to get opportunities in New York City, and New York artists definitely don't get the same types of opportunities out of town either. So once again, we're going to a whole different conversation. We are reaching an entirely different conversation now, because you're saying that, oh, New York shows out of town people love, but we don't get that same love back when New York artists go outside of New York. So this is what he's saying here. sometimes it's harder for local artists to get opportunities in New York. And he's saying that New York artists don't get the same types of love out of town. Said the 95 Source Awards were 30 plus years ago. There were way more positive interaction than negative ones. Says, okay, that's fine. That's fine. But we're not, again, we're not talking about that, man. We're not talking about that. So once again, we're focusing on New York. New York has become the center of this conversation. And I just want y'all to refocus on what Jim Jones said and just say that he was wrong. That's all y'all had to say, was that he was wrong. You can say that. And Rob Markman is funny because he already said that, hey, he listened to Day and Night. He heard Day and Night before the Jim Jones remix. He said it. He admitted it. So why would you continue? Why would you proceed to tell us after the fact that, oh man, it wasn't getting played on the radio until Jim Jones remix? It's no reason to say that. And then continue on and say, oh man, we New Yorkers, we give y'all love from out of town, but sometimes we don't get that love back. There's no point in saying that. Just say he was wrong, bro. Just say he was wrong. It's okay to say that Jim Jones was tripping. It is okay to say that Jim Jones was tripping. I tell you, like, unless he got a mob that's like coming and putting hits out on y'all, it's okay to tell him that he's tripping. He's wrong. And it's messed up that you're trying to discredit Kid Cudi like that. It's really messed up. So, moral of the story, Jim Jones was 100% wrong in his claim that nobody knew about Kid Cudi until he did the remix. You can keep that stuff in NY, but we are talking about the entire US and we are talking about the entire world. And the truth is, it's so many people that never even heard that Jim Jones remix. So many people that never heard that Jim Jones remix. I heard it. I didn't remember what he was saying, way back when. So I went to go listen to it again. I'm like, this remix sucked. That remix sucked. Nobody wanted to hear that shit, man. Nobody wanted to hear it. And it's still people that are like, I don't even want to go and try to listen to it. It's no point. You're wrong, Jimmy. You're wrong. So, like, can we stop the cap, bro? Like, I don't get why you are consistently saying this. Like, I totally do not understand why you keep saying it. So that's that, man. That's that. But I wanted to say that real quick because, like, this is still going. Like, they're still talking about it. New Yorkers are trying to defend this, and it's no reason to defend it. It's no reason to defend it. He's just wrong, and that's that. Shout out to 3 Shout out to you for the fall. So it's crazy. The only player radio we're getting onto the MP3 player era in there. Yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know what they were doing. So